The city of Boulder, Colorado is known for its stunning natural landscapes and vibrant community spirit. It has long been a leader in environmental sustainability and innovative urban planning. Recently, Boulder achieved a major milestone by securing a grant through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. This grant will be instrumental in improving the safety of public transportation across the city, benefiting residents of all ages. The funding will support a range of initiatives designed to create safer streets and prevent serious crashes, including upgraded pedestrian crossings and improved transit infrastructure. These efforts are a key component of Boulder's Vision Zero Action Plan, which aims to reduce traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries to zero. By sharing Boulder's successful journey through the grant application process, this video seeks to provide valuable insights and practical guidance to other communities striving to create safer, more inclusive transportation networks.
My name is Garrett Slater. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the Transportation and Mobility Department for the City of Boulder and Colorado. And our department is responsible for delivering and providing transportation infrastructure for the City of Boulder. And we are a community that prides itself on providing multimodal choices for residents and visitors. So we have lots of bicycling, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure, in addition to standard vehicle infrastructure that we are responsible for maintaining and building out. And in doing so, we want to make sure that all the users of our system feel safe while they're traveling throughout the community. And so that is our focus here. The primary objective of our project is to deliver on the action plan and the goals and objectives that are outlined in our Vision Zero action plan. So the city has been on a journey with Vision Zero starting in 2014, where we have a mission to where we don't want anybody that is using our streets or our transportation network to experience serious injury or death. And there are a number of actions that we can take that are outlined in our action plan. If you look at the core purpose of the Safe Streets for All grant program, it is entirely focused on steps that local agencies can take to make traveling along and across and throughout their transportation network safer. So the way to accomplish that is you need data. There's an expression that if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And so we've been measuring and tracking our crash history and all types of crash patterns, whether cyclists, pedestrians, vehicle on vehicle, and all manner of that data has been collected over the last decade so that we can understand the most prevalent types of crash patterns that we've seen people experiencing on our system. And from that, we created a Vision Zero plan, and then from there created a Vision Zero action plan with specific tactical steps that we can take as a community to make our system safer. And as we were developing that plan, this grant opportunity came out from the US DOT and the Federal Highway Administration. And so we looked at the information and the notice of funding opportunity and determined that it aligned very well with the goals that we've got as a community for making our system safer. Instead of it taking 20 years, we're going to be able to deliver on a number of those goals here in the next 5 years because of this grant. We did. So we knew that we did not have sufficient internal staffing resources to put the full effort into the development of the grant application. We had 3 teams working on this. So we called upon the consultant that had helped us develop our Vision Zero action plan. We had a consultant that was focused on the traffic and the crash data, as well as the demographic and the equity data that helped us to put together not only the existing conditions, but what the crash modification factors and the anticipated expected reduction in crash pattern would be with the implementation of these Vision Zero treatments. So we had an external consultant help us with that task. We also had an external consultant helping us with the cost estimating. We had one person working on that internally, but we also had a consultant working on that externally. And that was to make sure that we had a solid QA/QC effort going and the numbers to make sure that they were realistic and it properly accounted for the inflationary construction market conditions we find ourselves in, as well as going forward, projecting those cost increases by the time we got to time of implementation. And then finally, we had an external consultant helping us to draft the narrative. So we sort of put together the framework as internal staff, and I guess we had the outline and the framework, but we asked an external consultant to help us with drafting some of the specific components of the narrative. And they would pull that together, and then we would review it and edit it and send it back, and then they would take another pass at it. I think we iterated on that about 3 times before we arrived at our final version. And as I mentioned, there were 2 or 3 of us that were working together to load the application, and on that Friday, that final week, making sure that we had the application 100% rock solid. One of those folks was the external consultant that helped with the narrative. So I would say, unless you have significant internal staff capacity, it would be good planning for any local agency to plan on using at least one external partner. But it's not the sort of task where you can just hand it off, expect it to come back perfect, and then you can just submit an application. It took a lot of oversight, a lot of coordination and collaboration, working very closely together, because external consultants aren't ever going to know as well the story you want to tell and the compelling reason you should be considered for a grant application, as well as the staff who are closest to the problem. So I'll start with sort of the more perfunctory type of challenges we faced. So every local agency that wants to pursue federal grant funds needs to have a UEI, which is a federal a number that is unique to that local agency. And so most local agencies probably have these in place, but if not, one would need to make sure that they have that in place, and that can take some time. Fortunately, the city of Boulder already had one in place, but it turned out we actually had 2 different UEI numbers. And so it took some tracking down to make sure which one of those is the correct one for pursuing DOT grants. With that, then creating an account for all the folks who are actively working on and loading up the grant information to the US DOT, and specifically the SS4A grant application website. It took some time to get logged in and to make sure that all the folks that we wanted to have access, we limited it to 2 with 1 backup, had permissions to be able to get into the system. And from there, we did some experimental uploading of documents to make sure that we weren't going to encounter any difficulties with that. So getting that account created and going through that are just some basic steps. And I would encourage any agency that's considering pursuing any type of federal grant to give yourself at least a week or 2 to get basic steps, such as creating an account and making sure all the users that you want to have access have that access, and that they can upload files as needed. So from there, it was organizing the information. So we had the Vision Zero action plan information, but that doesn't automatically, you can't just sort of repackage that and turn it into a grant application. So we knew that there were 3 core efforts that were going to be needed for us to be able to bring the application together. One was sort of the narrative, the theme of our application. And so we figured out a team of folks that was going to work on that. The other was going to be focused on the data. So that was everything from census data to racial equity data, demographic data, crash data, all the data that is needed for a Safe Streets for All application, because these applications are very quantitative in nature, not just qualitative. And it was made clear to us through all the webinars that we attended leading up to the application submission. There were a number of webinars that the US DOT staff put on. It was made very, very clear that it's a data-driven approach, and they're going to review all those applications through that lens. And so we have a bunch of data that we track as a community, and that we have as part of various strategic and master plans. But again, we had to culture that information to tailor it and put it together in the package of the grant application. We developed our own cost estimate and then realized that there is a specific federal form that one must complete as part of the application, so that we had to reformat that estimate. So bringing together those individual efforts and then ultimately in the end to a collective effort was a significant challenge. And I was the coordinator and the project manager of all of that, and making sure that we were bringing together the entire team at key junctures, and also making sure that each individual team was hitting their marks, so that in the week leading up to the submission date, that we had a cohesive application. So I think that we spent 3 months of effort and coordinating and working on the grant, with each subsequent week as we got closer and closer, taking more and more of the time. And in that final week, I think I spent probably the majority of my time making sure that we had checked all the boxes and provided all the information, and that our story was cogent, and that the key information was all included. So those were some of the challenges. And then back to a basic challenge, we had our grant application all ready to submit. It was due on a Monday, but to be proactive, we thought we were being smart and tried to submit it on a Friday afternoon. And it turns out lots of other folks had the same idea, because when we went to load it, the website had crashed. And so we panicked for a moment and worried that we weren't going to be able to get the application uploaded. We decided, let's give this a try on Saturday morning when perhaps folks are not at work. And so 2 or 3 of us got together on a Zoom call, and then uploaded the application on the Saturday before the Monday that it was due, and had no difficulty. So I guess that's the other little tip I would pass along, is that be mindful of peak periods when applications are likely to be uploaded, because you might have difficulty getting onto the website, or it might crash because so many folks are loading significant amounts of data at once to the website. So just be mindful of that as well. Right after we had decided that we wanted to submit an application for Safe Streets for All, the NACTO conference, which is an acronym for the National Association of City Transportation Officials, held their annual conference in Denver, which is just down the road from us in Boulder. So that really worked out well, that we were able to send a lot of our city staff to attend the conference. And NACTO had invited representatives from the US DOT and FHWA to appear on a panel to talk about the type of information they expected would be compelling and competitive in the SS4A grants. Further, in addition to the federal staff, they'd invited representatives from San Antonio, I believe it was Tampa Bay, Florida, and Milwaukee, to appear on the panel to talk about their experience with submitting an application with SS4A. And that was incredibly valuable to hear their experience with what it was like, so that we could be prepared. I don't think that we would have been successful, and we would not have had a successfully awarded grant application had we not had that experience of hearing these other cities' experience, and also hearing directly from the US DOT at that conference.